That's right. It's time for Thursday Night Football. You know, it's the Showdown Hoedown, where we break down the Showdown slate for Monday and Thursday Night Football. Don't forget, as you can see this big-ass schedule behind me right here, right? I also do a full week-long on Tuesday with a preview. And Saturday, we do our final thoughts. Me and John Gold JD, that is, another high-limit player just like me, where we give you all our final thoughts and do a big-ass drawing where you can win a Millionaire Maker ticket on me to try, you know, like split $1 million with me. So, in case you don't know, I'm the Degenerate 75. I'm a high-limit DFS player. As you can see, I'm right there. Hey, look at that. Twitter, Degenerate 75. Go give me a follow. Trying to get to 5,000 between YouTube and Twitter here in the next couple days. I think we can get there. If you like the cut of my jib, consider liking and subscribing, you mother father. But right there you go. There's the schedule. I do golf, college football, but most importantly, I do NFL, and that's why you're here. I'm kind of a showdown king, so I'm going to try to help you out. And that all starts in one place, new guy. It's with contest selection, man. If you don't know, the number one place that you are burning money is just simply in your contest selection. Okay? I hope you're new, and I hope you're hearing this for the first time. You see this contest? This is the main $15 for tomorrow, where 44.4% of all the prize pool goes to first place. Okay, let's look at Monday night, where my dude John Gold JD won the Millionaire Maker. Well, he was in like a 274-person train, and I also was going to chop it if Robbie Gold didn't miss the field goal. It would have been like a 350-person train that I would have also been a part of. First place in that, they split $5,800. You're thinking, fuck, if I had $5,800, man, I'd be set. I don't give a fuck. Well, first of all, almost all those people on that train that split that are mass multi-enterers, right? Guys entering 150 lineups. And if you're earning 150 lineups at $15 a piece, that's $2,250. So even though they won the $5,000 or the $5,800, that basically is only enough to get them through about one more week of mass entering Showdown, right? The point is this contest is super hard to win, and even when you do, there's a very good chance you're going to chop it. And you're throwing in 5 lineups where all the pros are throwing in 150. You might as well just go fucking do a scratch-off lottery. It's just not a good tournament. If you want to play Showdown, you want to give yourself a chance. Play in tournaments where you have the same number of lineups that everybody else has in it. This is why I'm such a big fan of the $3 20 max, because then you can go for $60. You can max the tournament, and you have the same 20 lineups in it that everybody else has. If you don't want to play 20 lineups, check out 3 maxes, single entry, 5 maxes. Those are the bread and butter. Don't be giving up leverage on the few number of lineups you're playing versus the big dogs who can go play every good combination of their game scripts that they like and have a huge edge on you. Don't do it. Okay? Furthermore, when you're picking a lineup, make sure you're following a script, right? How do you think this game's going to play out? If you think this game is going to be a shootout, well, then you probably shouldn't be picking defenses, right? If you think that this game is going to be a slog, well, then you probably shouldn't be playing $10,000 quarterbacks, right? That was our script that over on my Discord, we really decided to go with on Monday, was that game was going to be a bit of a slog, and that the usage monsters of Debo and Kupp were going to get there, and then the quarterbacks wouldn't, and then we just played a bunch of slapdick pieces and defenses and kickers, and it got us there, right? That was our game script. Now, our game script's not always right, but when it is, we want to make sure we capitalize on it by having the right combination of players that makes sense in that game script, right? So there is your lesson number 1, new guy. Make sure that you are picking contests that make sense for you, okay? You know, and if you have a good bankroll, don't go playing this 222, right? This 222, because they can still, by they I mean high limit sharks, right? Guys that have big bankrolls like me can go put 75 lineups in there, and you're playing your one lineup. If you want to play a $222 lineup, just go check out the $200 single entry, right? Go play in that. That's way better, way more sustainable, because then you're making one lineup, they're making one lineup, okay? I don't care what value of money that you play per slate, but make sure that you are not putting yourself in a disadvantage by playing in these super top heavy tournaments like the $15, or playing in these tournaments where the big guys can out leverage you 75-1 in the number of lineups. Just don't do it. Don't do it. There you go. All right, that is contest selection. I'm not going to spend forever on it because most of you aren't new guys and you know this stuff. Hey, by the way, you see this big wheel right here? This is how you get in that Millionaire Maker, right? I was telling you about that earlier. All you simply got to do is go down in this comments right here, this YouTube video. This is one way to get in it. Just simply go down there and tell me who's the slate breaker for Thursday Night Football. Who is going to break the slate tonight? Okay. You can also go over and like and retweet this show on Twitter, and that'll get you another. So you can get 2 names on there. That's why it looks like there's so many. A lot of people are just on there 3 or 4 times. Some of them even went and rated my pod, so they get 3 names on there because they gave the pod a 5-star review. Let's get to the slate. The slate, as always, is powered by Run the Sims. As you can see, Run the Sims is the best tool-assisted site out there for Showdown, bar none. What makes Run the Sims so cool is you can plug in your own inputs, right? What you think the score be, what you think the pace is going to be, who do you think is going to get the target share, who do you think is going to get the catch share. And when you do that, then they will go run the simulations 10,000 times, and you can get an idea of who's going to be highly leveraged players and who's going to be very negatively leveraged players. Right now, the total for this game is only 42, which is, once again, for a primetime game, like our 5th straight primetime game with just a terrible total, right? 42 is a very low total, but the 3.5-point spread means it should be relatively competitive, but it's still going to be probably a slog based on what Vegas is telling us. So we're just going to use the generic inputs today. If you want to use the fancy inputs and go put your own stuff in there for how you think the game's going to play out, go try it out for a week. Use my code DEGEN75, DEGEN75. You'll get you 20% off. I encourage you to try it. Nobody that's tried it has not loved it. So we're running the Sims here, and when we run the Sims, we're going to get an idea of who are some guys that are popping up in the optimal lineup. As you can see, ownership is not in yet. I'm still recording this at around midnight the night before, so you can have this out bright and early. And really, the question is going to come down to the two big questions. What's the running back position going to look like for both teams? Because it just so happens that both of these teams that are playing in this slate both have just had catastrophes of injuries at running back, right? Legitimately, you could say 2 of the top 10 running backs in the league are down right now. Javonte Williams for the Broncos seems to be very seriously hurt, which you would instantly, if you're even a casual fan, would know that this has got to spike Melvin Gordon's usage, right, and his value. But the problem is DraftKings already knew that Melvin Gordon was going to be starting and that Javonte was going to be out, so they've dramatically priced down Javonte, I think, to $200, and they have Gordon priced all the way up to $8,800. So you're not going to get Gordon at $5,400 like maybe you would if Javonte was playing. On the flip side of that, Jonathan Taylor is officially out for the Colts, so we're definitely not going to want to play him. And so everybody would think, well, once again, even if you're a casual, you probably know, well, I got to play Nyheim Hines. But once again, Nyheim Hines, they have had enough time to fairly price up, probably not as much as they should. But here's what we don't know. We don't know what his role is going to look like, right? We always think of Nyheim Hines as kind of the guy that gives Jonathan Taylor a spell and runs the third down, some of the third down stuff, because even Jonathan Taylor gets some third down action, right? So is Nyheim Hines really going to be a bell cow? Is he going to play all 3 downs? I fucking doubt it, but maybe he will. And so that's what we don't know. And because of that, that gives us a lot of guessing and choosing on what we want to do on this slate, and gives us a way to get very, very different than everybody else. The first question is based on the current projections, the Sims are showing that our man Nyheim Hines is going to show up in the captain as the leverage, the best captain leverage, 18% of the time. They're saying he is the most likely player on this slate to be the best captain pick. And then he shows up another, 65%. Flex is 47, captain is 17. So there you go. He's a total of 65%. He shows up in the optimals. So if you played this 100 times, you would expect to see Nyheim Hines in there basically 2/3 of the time. So you got to ask yourself, do you really want to play Nyheim Hines? This is really what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to his ownership. If you look tomorrow, and you really shouldn't even start making your lineup, so probably a couple hours prior to kickoff. And when you do, you're going to want to look at it and see, is Nyheim Hines' ownership in the captain spot coming in at over 17%? I fucking doubt it will. But if it does, if it's coming in at 25%, well, then technically he's a negative leverage player at captain. You probably better going somewhere else where you can get some more leverage. Now, if his ownership in the captain spot is only coming in at like 10%, well, then all of a sudden he's a smash play in the captain, because he is way more likely to show up in the optimals than he is going to be in than he's showing up in there, and that's a guy we want to play. So the real question is, do we want to take that risk? Well, we got to get better ownership. So you got to go to a place where you get ownership that you trust. By the way, me and John Gold JD do ownership over on my Discord. Feel free to check it out. It's through my Patreon. It's right over here. You see this tab? Boom, it's right there. So let's get to the game. What kind of script do you think this game's going to be? Okay? Do you think this is going to be the boring slog game that everybody thinks? Because if you do, then you're probably going to want to go mess with the inputs and put the scoring a little bit lower, the pace a little bit lower, and you're probably going to want to stay away from quarterbacks, right? Because if you don't know, Matt Ryan fucking sucks, and Russell Wilson's having a bad year. But new guy, you got to be aware that everybody knows that narrative. Any slapdick can look at that total and say, oh, this is going to be a low-scoring game. Give me all the kickers in the defense, right? In Showdown, the best way in Showdown, especially if you're playing fields of over a few thousand people, a GPP with over a few thousand people, you've got to be thinking, how can I be different than everybody else? And most people think, oh, I'll get different because I'll go play the backup tight end and nobody will play him. Okay, that is one way to get different. But you know what's just a more logical way to get different? Pick a game script that makes sense, a game script that could happen where you get good players in your lineup, but they're just in a combination that nobody else would have, right? Like, what happens if the answer is tomorrow just ends up being some weird shootout, right? 34 to 35 or something like that, right? Like a really high-scoring game from two teams that have just looked atrocious this year offensively. When a game like that, you're going to want to have all the pass catchers you can probably get your hands on, right? Because in up and down games, wide receivers are at such a huge advantage because they get those, they end up getting they get 1 point for receptions. They get they're going to end up getting more opportunities for touchdowns. There's going to be more plays, which means more targets. They're just going to end up scoring higher per dollar than almost any other position. They'll almost always outscore a kicker and a defense and a running back in high-scoring games. So if you want to pick a narrative that not a lot of people will pick, why don't you just go with it's going to be a shootout narrative, okay? And if you're like, well, there's no way these guys will shoot out. Okay. Let me give you another one. Here's a script nobody will go with. Why don't you play the Colts blow them out narrative? No one is going to play the Colts blow them out. So if you think the Colts in a game script could win this game by 14 points, right? Russell Wilson throws a pick six early in the game, and the Colts just take care of the ball. They're efficient on offense, and they kind of just suffocate Denver, right? That is the script hardly anybody will play. You go play 4 or 5 Colts, and you just play 1 Bronco, and that right there is a build that hardly anybody will have, and you don't have to go play super punts, right? You could go play Hines at captain, which would make a lot of sense in that build because he'll probably be getting a lot of carries, right? You could go stack him with the Colts kicker, the Colts defense, guys like that, and then maybe go throw in Pittman, who's probably going to be a target whore, right? And then if you want to, run it back with some pass catchers from Denver and come up with a narrative that they'll be passing it late to try to get back in it, so I'm going to run it back with Alberto and Jerry Jeudy or something like that, right? This is how you can make a lineup and be different than everybody else. There's a million scripts that you can come up with. You can go with the shootout script. You can go with the Denver blows them out script. You can go with the teams keep stalling in the red zone and the field goal kickers get there and it's like 12-9 is the final score. There's a million scripts you can come up with. You can go with the usage monster script, which is basically what me and my Discord did on Monday. We just played the Cooper Kupp, Asante Samuels, Wilson, and then we just faded the quarterbacks and all the other receivers, and we got there. Like, that's basically all we did. We picked our script and we went with it. So pick the script that you think it's going to be. If you think it's going to be a game where the ball gets evenly distributed, well, then you really want to start looking at like second and third receivers, right? Alex Pierce starts to become a real option if you think the Colts are distributing the ball, right? Maybe you want to go with the Matt Ryan decides he doesn't fucking suck all of a sudden. So you go Matt Ryan at captain and you run it out there with 2 of his receivers. Hardly anybody is going to have that build, right? And so now you could run it out there. Matt Ryan, Pittman, Pierce, and then you also run it back with go ahead and throw in his field goal kicker or his defense, because if those guys are doing well, it'll probably be correlated to Matt Ryan doing well. And then you run it back with Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, somebody like that who can then get you on the way back, right? Or maybe you want to play that Matt Ryan's going to be behind, so then you want to play it with Melvin Gordon, because if Matt Ryan's playing from behind and throwing the ball all over the place, Melvin Gordon is probably controlling the game on the ground with the ball. Okay, you pick your narrative. I don't give a fuck what your narrative is, but that is the key to being good at Showdown. You pick your game script, how this game is going to play out, and you build a core of lineups around that, right? Because even when you have a good idea what the script is, there's usually 8, 10, 12 players that could fit into that script, and it could end up working out, right? And the key is picking that script right and having enough good, solid lineups built around that, so if your script hits the way that you think it could, then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of bullets to take down a GPP. That's how you got to do it, right? If you're just randomly picking guys and just saying, oh, this one equals exactly 50,000. Well, first of all, you gave no thought to that lineup. You just picked 6 fuckers that would fit into a lineup at $50,000. And second of all, it's going to be duped like an MFer. And so in the rare chance that your random scratch-off lottery of a lineup hits, you're going to be splitting it with like 500 people. And that's not the goal. If you end up making a good correlated lineup that's a script, you're still going to probably end up freaking duping it with a couple people, but it's a lot better to dupe with 7 people than it is 248. Okay, that's a fact. Hold on, let me check my math. Yep, that's it. That is a correct number. So that's really what I want you to do. A couple guys to consider that you really need to watch is, we all know Russell Wilson. The quarterbacks, this is a very legitimate game to just consider fading both quarterbacks. They're both right around $10,000. You can get away with fading them.
The real question comes down to what you think is going to happen at running back. Is it going to be Gordon or Hines? And then if it's not them, then you really got to start asking questions. Well, who's it going to be? I think Phillip Lindsay makes a whole lot of sense for Indianapolis. Maybe he gets the third down work for them, and Hines moves more into the first and second down role. That is a very real consideration. And then the other question is, what's going to happen with Mike Boone? Does he start to gobble up the third down work for Melvin Gordon? Does he get some goal line carries? We don't know these things for sure. All we can do is project. But if you come up with your narrative that one of these guys does this thing, like if you think that Phillip Lindsay is going to get the third down work, then you've got to have him in your lineup, right? Because at $400, he can pay that off. He could get to 10 points so easily in that role. So, and then from there, we want to start looking at well, who's the legitimate receivers? Well, you got to know that Indianapolis's offense has been putrid. Michael Pittman has been a target monster, but maybe this is the week they finally start to open it up, and you got to start looking at their tight ends. Mo Alley Cox seems to be the second most reliable target for them, but maybe this is the week that Alec Pierce or Paris Campbell finally breaks out, right? I don't know if it's very likely, especially when Matt Ryan's throwing the ball, but in a showdown format for one single game, maybe this is the time they get it done, right? Then for Denver, you got to ask yourself, is anybody other than Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy ever going to get the ball? Maybe a little bit of Albert O. He gets the ball, but he hasn't been being involved near as much as people thought he would. So is there any chance that one of the other Denver receivers gets in there? If they do, who's it going to be? Is it going to be, I would probably rather play Eric Salbert, the backup tight end, than I would probably any of their wide receivers like Hamler or anything. Hamler just hasn't got it done. Trust me, I have him in my best ball lineups. And then lastly, I think in a game like this, you have to be open to kickers and defenses, especially if they fit your script. If you think they fit your script, you got to play them, right? And you got to remember, this game is taking place in Denver where the altitude's a little lower, so 50-yard field goals all of a sudden become a lot more viable than on normal weeks. And then these defenses, if you don't know, Matt Ryan can turn the ball over and Russell Wilson can take a sack like the best of them. So I do think defenses are viable against both of these quarterbacks. The key is picking your script, knowing what you think is going to happen at running back, and then just mixing and matching the right pieces, right? I highly encourage you, don't get carried away and think, I'm going to get different by playing Eric Tomlinson. I mean, you can go play Eric Tomlinson, but instead of playing Eric Tomlinson, why don't you just go play a different script and get 6 legit players in there, right? Alex Pierce is overpriced. I agree. At $5,400, he shouldn't be in there. But there is a lot of game scripts where Alex Pierce gets there in a showdown lineup. And so that's guys you got to consider, right? Especially if you're okay fading one or both of the quarterbacks, that really opens a lot of money for the rest of your lineups. And if you're one of those people that thinks a showdown lineup could never get there without one of the quarterbacks, just look at Monday. Garoppolo and Stafford. Neither one of them were in the optimal. Okay, I know. A bunch of my people in my Discord did it. So there you go. That's what you should be looking at. Those are some names to consider. Those are some game scripts to consider. And the biggest thing we want to do is we want to be looking for news today about what the Indianapolis running back situation is going to be, specifically who's going to get that third down action, and what the Indianapolis running back situation is going to be, specifically who's going to get that third down action. I think that's it. Okay. Don't forget, I've got a busy schedule. Come check me out again. I do this every Monday and Thursday. This is the Showdown Hoedown. Feel free to come check out the Discord. But most importantly, I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy my outro.